First time we met, we hated each other.
No, you didn't hate me. I hated you. The second time we met, you didn't even remember me.
I did too. I remembered you. The third time we met, we became friends.
We were friends for a long time.
And then we weren't.
And then we fell in love.
I'm Vanessa Zoltan.
I'm Hannah McGregor.
And this is Hot and Bothered. Hey, Hannah, we are here to talk about the happily ever after scene of the film. And this week we're doing When Harry Met Sally. It is a very formal ending. So they are kissing at the New Year's Eve party, and then we get a voiceover in which they are telling the story of how they met. They're saying the first time we met, we hated each other. Well, I hated you. You didn't hate me. Over the kissing. It cuts to them on the same couch where we've seen all of these older couples being interviewed. It is mostly up until this point been couples, I think we're supposed to believe in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. These are couples who've all been together for 50 years. Harry and Sally are being played by 32-year-old Harry and Sally. They've just gotten married. And it starts with Sally being we got married 3 months later. And it's oh, it only took 3 months. And then she's well, 12 years and 3 months after we met, right? That's how long it took. And the version of the story that they tell is we didn't like each other. We still didn't like each other. Then we became friends. Then we got into a fight. And then we fell in love. And that's their sort of narrative arc. And then it ends sort of with a bit where they're we had a really beautiful wedding and they had a coconut cake with the chocolate sauce on the side.
It's got to be on the side because otherwise it absorbs too much into the cake, especially coconut, very absorbent.
Yes. And I find this little ending a little ambiguous because Harry is the one who's defending on the side. And she's yes, it's important to keep it on the side. And he's yes, right. And they're of one mind on the side. And then it cuts so abruptly that you don't have them gazing longingly at each other. It's sweet because they're on this couch cuddled up. She's really leaning into him. And I don't know, are we supposed to read this as oh God, Harry's been whipped? Or is it oh man, they've really taken on each other's mantles?
I really read it as in part because of the way that Billy Crystal is delivering it, I read it as he truly doesn't care. He's going to care because she cares. Because for all of the ways in which both of them have transformed and grown and matured throughout the movie, the specificity of how she orders remains. She knows what she likes. She knows, no, you don't put the dressing on the salad because then you're going to put too much dressing on the salad and the salad's going to be soggy. Dressing on the side, sauce on the side, then people can control. So it's he's yeah, I don't care. If I had been the one to make this decision, the sauce would have been on the cake. But she cares. So I'm going to explain why it matters because she cares. And there's something profoundly gendered about that dynamic, obviously, right? The idea that paying attention to details is a thing that women do and that men humor them but don't actually also care. Alas, a dynamic I continue to see emerge in my friends' heterosexual relationships. What a bummer. But my reading of the scene is their happily ever after is not that they're suddenly transformed into other people. They continue to be every bit as weird and quirky and kind of mismatched as they always have been. Just they're happy together.
I don't know why I read it as him being a little emasculated. I could be projecting.
It reminds me the way in which Harry has taken on the mantle of on the side, as you put it, reminds me of the scene with Jess and Marie and the wagon wheel coffee table. This idea that when men and women get together, the men are going to bring a bunch of their bad opinions and ugly furniture from before they were married, and slowly those bad opinions and ugly pieces of furniture are going to be tossed to the curb. And instead, what we're going to get is the woman's opinions winning out. And that logic, it's there in a lot of the film, but it's not there in any of the other interviews.
Yes.
So this final scene kind of fits with what we've seen in the rest of their story and what we've seen mirrored in Jess and Marie's marriage, but it doesn't align with the other interstitial interviews that we've seen, which is, I think, part of why it sits a little weirdly, is that, like, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, because all of the other interstitials end with the couple kind of looking lovingly at each other, right? Of like, he looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
Or 60 years ago. There's something triumphant about all of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're at the beginning of the marriage and not celebrating 50 years, and that's the difference. They're in the dailiness of it.
But doesn't that introduce an interesting ambivalence? Like, we're not given the comfort of knowing that they're going to be together for 50 years. We're given, well, they're going to get married. We'll see.
Or like maybe they will, and that's what the couch symbolizes. But like that doesn't mean that it's all sweetness. My truly favorite sitcom is the show Mad About You. And the premise of that show is after the honeymoon, and it starts on their 6-month wedding anniversary when they, for the first time, like haven't had sex in a week and whatever. Like the magic is deteriorating. And Paul Reiser is like, that's marriage, right? Like every show ends with them getting married. Like what happens after? That's the stuff of life. And like, that's what's interesting. And yeah, I think that maybe this scene is like winking at that. It's like, well, what we've watched actually is a series of how people met. When Harry met Sally, they have met and fallen in love now. And like, yeah, we don't know what's coming next.
But like, it would have been just as easy if the whole point of the interstitials was for them to be about how people met. It could have just as easily been a bunch of younger couples talking about how they met. It's all much older couples talking about how they met the person that they would end up with in the long term. And so, like you said, that decision to give us the epilogue, but not put it that far into the marriage, does leave us on a note of less simple security in the idea that this marriage is going to work out than the other interviews we've seen.
Is there something particularly about this happily ever after epilogue that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, what I found really interesting was the way that it is more concerned with mirroring a form that the movie has set up than it is with content. Because in terms of content, it doesn't actually tell us much of anything. We know they got married. We know they had a cake. There's very little information about what their happily ever after looks like. And so instead, most of what we are as viewers offered in order to understand what their happily ever after is, comes through the mirroring of that scene to the other scenes that have come before it. It's about the fact that they show up on the couch in the same framed shot as the other interviewees have, and we have been led throughout the film to understand that that shot tells us something about the longevity of a relationship, about a relationship ultimately being a happily ever after, even if people met in strange or unpredictable or non-traditional ways. And so it's saying to us formally, here it is, here's their happily ever after. But in terms of actually giving us any sense of what that looks like there's very little.
Yeah, I was even thinking there would be ways to have this be the same form and give us a little bit more information. Like they could have her have like a little prego bump. He could have a big beard again. Like other things could be changed about them. And it's not. It's really just like they look exactly the same. It's like half a minute later.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about the form.
Anything else that stood out for you about this happily ever after?
Two things. One is that 3 months later is very fast because it sounds like they had a traditional wedding, right? With a big cake, a big coconut cake. And I'm like, that is fast.
Yep.
From kiss to wedding. And so I don't know, Sally's efficiency is really coming to bear here. But I'm really charmed by the way that they're cuddled up to each other, the way that she's like so comfortably leaning into him. It's not like overly effusive. It's not his arm is around her. They're not making googly eyes at each other, but they're like clearly physically very comfortable with one another in a way that does like give some reassurance and is its own like, look, they found each other.
Yeah, it pays off what I as a viewer wanted, at least, which was to see a return of the comfort of their friendship now intertwined with their romantic relationship. Because, you know, and they got so uncomfortable with each other for a while there. And it's really nice to see them back to having repartee and patter and physical comfort together.
I'm not sure that this comment belongs here, but I actually really do think the most romantic part of the movie is when they get into a big fight outside of Jess and Marie's house after Harry has like screamed at Jess and Marie because he's upset about Helen and he like is like, you're too stuck up, whatever. And when he is just like, are you finished? And she says, yes. And he says, can I say something? And she says, yes. And he's just like, I'm so sorry. And they hug.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, this is going to be a couple that can get through stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like she stands up for herself and in the middle of a heated moment and like a really heated moment, he just ran into his ex-wife with like the man who she left him for.
Yeah.
He can still stop his emotional train and like look at the woman he loves and apologize and hug her. And it's just my favorite. And it's such a good hug. Even though it ends with a comedy beat of then just like wheeling out this wagon wheel coffee table. It's a very sweet
Oh, it's such
moment.
an ugly coffee table. Okay, tell me, Vanessa, if you could rewrite this ending, what would you change about it?
I mean, I wouldn't want this at the ending, but I would want this a little bit after Jess and Marie's wedding. But Jess and Marie need a couch moment. Like, if we're integrating the interstitials couch stuff into the film, we watch Jess and Marie fall in love, and I want them telling the story. I mean, I guess they kind of do in the toast at their wedding. They say to Harry and Sally, if either of us had found you remotely attractive, we wouldn't be here today. But, like, it's a great How We Met story, right? We were on a double setup. We ditched the people we were with because she quoted me to me. And that was the hottest thing ever. And so we ran off together and like clearly had sex all weekend, right? Like they run into that cab together and start making out in the cab. I love Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby in this movie. I think Carrie Fisher in this movie is like the part of a movie that my family quotes the most often. You're right. You're right. I know you're right. Everybody thinks they have great taste and a sense of humor, but obviously not everybody has great taste and a sense of humor. Like my father will say that about like everybody thinks they're a good driver, but obviously not everybody is a good driver. Everybody thinks they're an okay cook. Obviously not. Like she looms large, this character in our lives. And yeah, I want them to have their couch moment. But what about you, Hannah? How would you change this ending?
Put Billy Crystal in the Miracle Max prosthetics, you cowards. Listen.
Okay, say more.
Okay, so 2 years prior to this, Billy Crystal played the character of Miracle Max in The Princess Bride. Carol Kane plays his wife. The two of them are perfect. Apparently, it's a largely improvised scene. It's very funny.
So
he has a great joke about a mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And the two of them are wearing the most over-the-top aging prosthetics. Like, huge droopy nose, really droopy jaw, like really comic. These people are 200 years old prosthetics.
Literally, they're supposed to be 200, I think.
And I'm like, listen, I want them to be older in this epilogue. I want to see them actually in their 80s so that I know that this marriage lasts. And you've already got the Miracle Max prosthetics lying around somewhere.
Rob Reiner, same director.
Same director. Don't tell me you didn't save those. You saved those.
And Meg Ryan could use Carol Kane.
Absolutely. I want the two of them dressed up like Miracle Max and his wife, Valerie.
Valerie, I didn't realize. But your point is, prosthetics budgeting aside, your point is that you want to see them in their 80s reflecting on this.
I would have, we've unpacked the ambivalence of this ending. And I, as a person who is often goes to romance as a genre in which I want an assurance that things are going to work out. Not that there won't be complications, but that like things can work out in the long run. I want them to be old in the last scene.
Yeah.
I want them to be reflecting back on this in the same way that those older couples reflected back on it.
Yeah. No, me too. It would just make me feel more secure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I share a piece of trivia before we wrap up?
Yes.
That I learned in my research. So they had a really hard time naming this movie. It was originally called How They Met.
Mm.
And Nora Ephron and Rob Reiner were both like, this is a terrible title. So they started a contest on the crew that whoever's title won would get a case of champagne.
Oh.
And so that's how we got the name When Harry Met Sally.
Mm. Mm. I've got to say, I always appreciate when a movie title has the protagonist's names in it. It's helpful for me personally.
Next week, Hannah, we're watching another Meg Ryan, Nora Ephron collab, the last one that we're going to do, and that is You've Got Mail.
Well, thank goodness, because I'm going to have a lot of things to say about the landscape of book selling.
I'm so happy for you. And this, I'm worried because I don't find Tom Hanks charming and You've Got Mail, so we'll talk about that. I know. Boo. You've been listening to Hot and Bothered. We're a small show, so we need your support to run. If you can, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/hotandbotheredrompod. If you love the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We are a Not Sorry production. I am the executive producer of the show, and we are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman, and we are distributed by Acast. Thanks, as always, to our soulmate-level patrons, Molly Reilly, who we would chase through an airport to declare our love to, Becky Boo, who we would wait for hours on the top of the Empire State Building for, Elizabeth Schweisberg, whose heart we would play a game of one-on-one basketball for, Lauren Byer O'Connell, who we would call up on stage to dance with us in front of the whole summer camp, and Claudia Hammerman, who we would give the whole door to float on, even if there was room for both of us. And to our team, Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Aramas, Hannah Rehack, Margaret H. Wilson, Courtney Brown, Natalie Folkerts, Phidias Reyes, Stephanie Paulsell, and my beautiful, amazing co-host, Hannah McGregor. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you next week.